These renovations, I have a priority, which is to include first floor living, make it possible so that people can stay as long as possible with, as they age. That includes having a first floor bedroom, a first floor full bath, a easy access to a laundry room and a garage, as well as quick and simple access to outdoor space. And that's something I've done in all my properties. This one's no different, and my 80-plus-year-old in-laws rent from me here and live here now. The idea that first off, again, I love antique homes. I can't seem to let them go. I own all the homes still that I've ever done, and I have the same plan for Pond Street, that I would continue to own it and I would rent it out. The issue with renting out an antique home is they, even though it's virtually new inside, they need to be well cared for, and I look for long-term tenants so that the home is not constantly having to turn over, and that's hard on a landlord as well as a house. And this is not my full-time job, so I tend to do pretty much everything to these homes up front, and so that it's less wear and tear on me as we go. So they're very energy efficient, and spray foam insulation, all the lead paint is removed, asbestos. The homes are really in great shape when I do finish them. This is the neighbor that you probably are most interested in hearing from, because it is the shared property line with this property that is going to be very tight. And so that's why I think this house is very relevant. And when I renovated this house, I kept in mind Pond Street, the Pond Street house, keeping privacy as well as knowing that there are no windows that look out right at them. It's, windows were positioned in this house so that there was privacy both for Pond and from Pond. So this is the house, 60 Pond. It is a tiny little adorable house. It has been unchanged since it was built in 1860. It's except for having a carport added at some point. It's 884 square feet of living space, so very small by today's standards. The first floor is 660 square feet, which is tiny. The lot size is 1/10 of an acre, 4,500 square feet. And because it's on a corner and because Andrews looks down on it, there's virtually no private spot on this lot. It is, Andrews sits actually about 4 or 5 feet above it and just looks down on the house. So it's getting some privacy into this lot and house was part of my objective as well. The house is not historically relevant, although it has a nice history to it. It apparently was one of the first phones was installed in this house because the fire chief lived here and used to walk to the Children's Museum firehouse. So it does have a nice history to it, but I guess it's not considered relevant. This is hard to see, but I plotted it out because I wanted to show, as I'm sure you're well aware being the zoning board, that this whole area is full of non-conforming lots. Everything's tight, and some houses are very much right on the property line. So I don't think what I'm asking for is out of the norm for this area. So I'm hoping that you'll agree. All right, this is an aerial view. Ignore the sideways writing. Do you see my cursor? Oh,
Yes.
Okay. This is the wraparound porch that I'm proposing. This is the 2-story addition. I'm going to take down the 10 by 10, which currently doesn't have a foundation at all under it. And I'm proposing in place of this carport, which I don't know, it's been there for about at least 10 or 15 years at this point. But I'll take that down and what I'm proposing is to put a 1-car garage. The lot, and one of the reasons for the garage is not only for ease for a future tenant, but there is absolutely no storage space on this lot. Bicycles, kayaks, everything is just out in the open, and the lot has become somewhat of an eyesore recently. It needs to be given some space. All right, so this shows what I'm actually asking for. The setback, the carport goes right up to the property line, as I said. What I've done is pushed it back, pushed the proposed garage back 2 feet to try to get a little bit of space out of there to get a 12-foot wide garage. And that's about as minimum as you can have and have a functioning garage. And the shed will come down, and the setback will be about 8 inches off the property line. And one of the other property lines changes a little bit. I think by the front goes from I think it's 17 feet to 13 feet. And then the other variance that I need is to go from I think the existing house takes up about 15% of the lot, and I am proposing going to 32% of the lot. That's counting the farmer's porch and everything that I've proposed. This is what it looks like right now, or recently. I'm not proposing going any taller than what's already here. So this line will continue out. It actually comes down a little bit for the garage. The garage is 1.5 stories. You can see there's this 4-foot pile of rubble here. And what I'd like to do is clean all this up and put a 1-car garage there. So I won't be getting any closer than what's already here. And again, 11 Andrews was built to sort of shield the house from the house. So there's a fence, and then on the other side of the fence, there's the HVAC for the house and all the wiring. So it's really kind of a no man's land already. And this is what I'm proposing that same elevation would look like, which I think, I hope you'd agree, is a lot cleaner looking. And this is the front of the house with the farmer's porch. I guess you could argue I'm using up a lot of the square footage of the lot, but having outdoor space that you can just step out onto is really appealing. This porch also is shielded from the house behind by the 2-story addition in the back, so it makes this porch space very private, which is not something that's currently available in the yard. If you go out and sit in the yard, it's there's no privacy back there. This is the side, the left side of the house. Again, this is the back of the garage. This is the 2-story addition and the farmer's porch. So this is the view from one of the second floor windows of 11 Andrews. We're just mostly highlighting how exposed the yard is from between the two houses. So I think it's important to give Pond Street some nice privacy. And this is really the reason why I purchased the property, because if I didn't, somebody else would be sitting here probably arguing that the whole lot should be filled with a house, and that would block the view from 11 Andrews. So what I feel like I've proposed is a happy medium. It helps Pond Street grow to a nice functional size. The final square footage will be around 1,600 square feet, which is not a large house, but it's much more livable than what's there now. And it gives that all needed outdoor storage space and a garage. Whether the garage is there or not, people will still park there. So there will be a car there because there's no place else to put a car. So I'm just trying to mostly clean it up. And I think that benefits the neighborhood as well as the occupants of the house. And this is the back of the house that it'll look like from Andrews. I wanted to just quickly point out how no square foot here is unused. I'm proposing taking down many walls to open it up so there's a nice open living room space with the great views of the pond, which is just really beautiful about this house. This design allows for a nice size first floor bedroom or an office until it's needed as a bedroom, a laundry room here, and then a garage, and easy access out onto the wraparound porch. So if someone needed to have first floor living, they could do it here very easily. And there's also a second floor here if you wanted to see it, but mostly the second floor puts storage space over the garage and makes some back bedrooms bigger so that there's basically no attic space. When I'm done, there'll be some HVAC that's up high, but there won't be storage space upstairs. And downstairs, there's only a partial full basement. So getting a little extra storage space out over the garage was really a helpful feature of this design. And partly why it's important to get that garage in to have extra space. And I think that's it. If you have any questions, happy to answer.
Well, we'll start with, thank you for that. We'll start with questions from the public to start with. Ms. Rummel, as a member of the public.
As a member of the public, if
Yeah.
I just have a few, but I'm happy to also hold them.
No, as a member, in this case, you're an alternate member, so you can ask as a member of the
Just
public.
here as a member of the public, a few questions.
Yes.
So these plans, were they not included in your packet, the floor plans?
They're in there.
They're in there. They
The floor
should be.
plans are- Okay.
Oh, maybe not the floor plans, maybe just the
They're in there.
elevations.
They're
floor
through
plan?
Permit Eyes.
Oh, I see. They weren't in.
Yeah, the full set of drawings is up on
All
Permit
right,
Eyes.
thank you. And did you buy 11 Andrews and this property at the same time?
No,
You purchased them?
no, I've owned 11 Andrews since 2016, I
Did
think.
you need a variance to do any work at 11 Andrews?
I did not, no, because the sewer runs right down Andrews Street. So Andrews, by being able to hook up to sewer, I was able to put a big addition off the back of Andrews without needing any variances. But that's also the reason why I needed to purchase this, because again, there are 2 cesspools on the property now, and I will be tying into sewer as one of the first things I do. And then I'll be using the cesspools likely for stormwater runoff. I'll have all the gutters directed into the old cesspools. So My fear was that the first person who bought this house would do the same thing, and then they'd put a big house there. And I didn't want that to happen.
So you're here for a variance, correct?
Yes.
And have you have reviewed the requirements for a variance?
I have,
And
yes.
what they are? So what is it that you feel is about this particular property that makes this not prohibit you from having a single-family home on the property?
Well, there is a single-family home on the property.
Correct.
Is that what you mean?
That's sort of what I mean, yeah.
Well, it's very undersized. I mean, first off, I have to gut the property, even if I didn't do anything to it, just to bring it up to today's standards. But now you're looking at a major renovation on an 884 square foot house that very few people could actually functionally live in. It certainly wouldn't be, it wouldn't justify the value of the renovation.
But would you agree that you could have a single-family home on that property?
Well, I agree there is one there,
All right.
yes.
And in terms of the carport not being permitted, were you aware of that when you purchased the house?
I wasn't aware. I could have looked, I suppose, but it didn't matter because I needed to, have the property.
Okay. And the 15.6% that you've listed as being the approximate listing, the lot coverage, does that include the carport?
No,
So you didn't consider it a structure when you were
No.
designing the square footage?
no.
Okay. Had you considered a plan that, could you switch back to, or it doesn't really matter. I just wondered if you considered a plan that had the garage where over your 10 by 10, the 10 by 10 bump out, not the carport.
Yeah, well, that 10 by 10 is only 10 feet. It's not big enough for a garage. But if I had done that, I wouldn't have room for a first floor bedroom.
But you could have a second floor bedroom, could you not?
But the point is to have first floor living.
Right,
So
so you're
that
asking
people
for a
can.
variance, you're asking for a variance for first floor living, is that the point?
Yes, well, that's part of the design, yes. So that people can age in place in this property.
Do you see that as a variance standard? A standard of variance is that people should be
I
allowed
see
to
it
live
as
in
a
place?
hardship for this lot, that I'm unable to put it anywhere else, and that it is something that we should prioritize as a culture of bringing a house that should,
Oops, sorry.
that's more functional for today's living.
And by today's living, is that something, please don't get me wrong, I've seen your properties are lovely. I think what you've done to them is just, I love Andrews and the Briggs home or whatever, fabulous. But I'm just still trying to get to this variance notion. You are increasing the nonconformity, are you not?
Yes, I am.
By more than a de minimis standard, because the carport isn't a structure, correct?
Well, what I'm asking, to be honest, if you look at all the houses, even on Pond Street, they've all grown up over the years, and they've all been allowed to modernize. And this house has been unaltered since 1860. And so is it reasonable to say that this is the one house in town that should not be allowed because it took so long to get there? I mean, every other house, actually Andrews was the exact shape as this in its original form. The same front peak, it was the exact, with the 10 by 10 off the back. That's what it was up until, I guess in the 1930s, they did this side thing, and then in the 1980s, they put a big kitchen and a 2-story addition off the back. But that house was exactly what this house is today.
But the lot was about twice the size, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
it was.
So, and I think my final, can you just define what your hardship is here?
My hardship is that I'm trying to have two houses that work in harmony together. One not blocking the view of the other. And I'm trying to create a home where people can age in place. And I have tenants and potential tenants who are here tonight who want this property. So I'm also renovating it for them for this exact reason too.
But they would rent in place then? Is that the idea? That
Yes.
Keep it, is that right?
I mean, as I said, these properties cost a lot to renovate. The way I don't know how to flip a home. I've never understood how someone can come in and take an antique home, fix everything that has to be fixed in it structurally, and bring it up to date, and then sell it for more. I don't know how that works. I personally, the only model I have found to work is to pour everything I have into it, renovate it. I mean, I'm looking at spending a not insubstantial fortune on this house. And then I'm going to hold on to it for probably 20 years. And my other houses, I've had the same tenants since I finished them. They are usually older couples who love living in a piece of history. And, my ideal is that they stay as long as they possibly can. And in doing so, that means they need housing, they need a first floor bedroom, they need access to outdoor space, they need, all the things that I have been able to put in this house. And, you're mentioning of the carport, it's been there. It's been an eyesore. And the fact that it's not been permitted, it doesn't negate the fact that that's still where everybody would put their car. That's the only place people park. So it's still going to be a parking spot. It's the question of now for the neighborhood, do they want to look at the cars and the canoes and the bicycles, or do we want to put it in a safe
Well, but do you
garage?
understand that that's not a structure, correct? I mean, where the car is parked is not a structure. It doesn't contribute to setback requirements or to coverage, right?
The car.
Where the car is parked
Right.
is not.
I mean, if
it's
you want to
not
hold
structure.
this lot to a standard that no other lot in town, yes, I would agree. I could leave the house as it is, although I guess what I'm asking this board is to say this house should be allowed to be improved on like every other property in the village.
I have no further questions. Sure.
Any other questions from the public? Okay, members of the board, Mr. Hardiman, do you have anything?
I do not. Thank you.
Mr. Hamburger?
The access above the garage will be through, I assume, through one of the two. How many bedrooms will be on the second floor?
I can show you the second floor. I just didn't know. So the house will become a 4-bedroom house. That's what's allowed to be tied into town sewer, so I'm gonna take advantage of that. These rooms this is over the garage. The thought is they can be closets, tiny offices. They're very small windows in them because they're not full height. There'll be slopey roof lines up there, so.
It's a one-car garage,
It's a 1-car garage. It's
12 feet wide.
It's very small.
Yeah. And when you put
It's
a-
22
when you
by
put a-
12.
And when you put a landing from the room into the garage, it'd be hard to get a car in there. Landing by cozy, it'll be 3 foot by 3 foot.
Yeah, it's a minimalist
Yeah.
garage. But I think important for both the property and, yeah.
Anything else?
I have no other questions.
Ms. Curran?
Yeah, just a couple. Actually, I think one of the questions that I had coming into this was to ask you why the garage was necessary, and I think you've spent a fair amount of time explaining that. But if is it your position that ultimately, without the garage on the first floor bedroom is impossible to?
Oh, you mean putting the garage where the bedroom is, or?
Well, if you wanted a garage, you move it back to where that little addition is off the back, but then you're cutting down on the
Well, not only
space.
that, I'd lose the first floor laundry room, which is also an important feature of a home.
Right. Is there a laundry room in the
There's
structure?
a laundry room on it's in the bathroom on the second floor of the existing house.
All right.
There's only there's a rubble full foundation under the living room, but under the kitchen there's a crawl space, and there's nothing under the 10 by 10 right now. So it's there's the basement area is not suitable for a laundry room.
Defeats the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish by making
Which is
it
first floor
agent-proof.
living,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. And is it, from your perspective, is the hardship that's posed by this the fact that you're trying to take a structure built in 1860 and improve it in a way that corresponds to 21st century living?
Which is, I mean, in my view, this is a great design for this property. Personally speaking, it fits every feature that I've looked to have in all of my houses in a beautiful location. I think it also benefits the neighborhood because it just you saw the picture of what it is now with this. It's not just where you put your car, but just having anything that you want outside. Right now, it's just out in the open. And I mean, it just cleans everything up and makes it a very safe environment.
And the carport that we saw in those pictures, is that just a piece of plywood mounted on some?
It's actually kind of a pergola with a metal roof on it. It's a fairly, substantial thing, I guess. And it's been there. I don't know when they put it in, but for a long time, I guess they've improved the roof a few years ago. For a while, it had rocks on top of it to hold down the plastic roof, and that was lovely. It really had become an eyesore, the whole lot, and I'm trying to just clean it up and make it,
And has anybody from the building department approached you about getting rid of it because of?
Actually, when we bought it, they said if we ever took it down, they would just want proper footings, or I mean, it has actually proper footings on it. They did pour some cement footings, but they didn't say anything about taking it down. It wasn't required to take it down, and but I need to take it down just to rebuild the 10 by 10, which had a horrible fire in it, and I've already gutted the interior of the property, and there is I don't know how the 10 by 10 is still standing. It was badly burned, which is kind of ironic because the chief of police or fire chief lived there. But
Before or after the fire?
no, he lived there during the fire. Apparently, we talked to the family. There was one family that lived there for 90 years, which I love. So it will be the Lorden family home when I get that made.
Is there anybody living there right now?
No.
Okay.
No, it's been empty for, I don't know, 9 or 10 months, I think.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. K?
Can you go back to the slide that's the aerial view of it?
Yeah. Sorry, this is slow. There you go.
So I wanted to ask about what looks to me like a driveway in the front on Pond Street.
There's a shared single spot.
That does here. So you have one
So one-
spot.
yeah,
One
you can
spot
see
is
the-
on 60 Pond Street.
Right,
Okay.
right. And
And is that not a viable parking spot?
it is, I sort of see it as guest parking. Yeah, it's just not, this is not easily walkable. There's a mound there, you know, it's certainly not where you would park on a daily basis.
Can you go back down to the photo that basically shows where the carport meets 11 Andrews?
Mhm.
So do I understand this right? You own both properties, right?
Yes,
Okay. I think I missed that somehow before just now. And so all the debris that is like kind of to the right of the car, that is on the property of 11 Andrews? No? Okay.
it's kind of on the line, you know, it's sort of you know, it's on the left side of the fence. The fence is a little bit in from the property line, but I don't know. Right now, this is a few years ago, so this is all grown in. This is all grown in with, you know, bushes and shrubbery now. I'd like to clean it up and put a stone wall there of some sort.
But the top of the carport as it stands
Yes,
is as it stands now is like 9 or 10 inches from the property line,
yes,
and you're proposing to put a garage there that would be 8 inches from the property line.
right. I mean, the carport, I think actually, from this, I think this actually goes over further than my
You mean
garage would.
The overhang?
The overhang, yeah. And I've also recessed back a few feet the garage so that because the property line gets more favorable as you go back. So by setting it back a few feet, I'm actually getting a little further away from the property line.
Can you set it back further to make it even further away from the property line?
No, because it's already 22 feet. If you look at the, oh wait,
Who's the other way?
it's the other way. It's, you know, if I could slide it back a tiny bit, but it's still, you know, it's just right here. The fence is all along here. So it just doesn't make that big of a difference to slide it back. And then it complicates how you come into the interior. Like I would miss the laundry room, right? And it would make the bedroom too small, you know, it would mess up the interior if I moved it much further back.
And okay, a few more questions. The 1,600 square feet that you get, that includes the garage?
No,
Space over it?
no space over it.
It's a percentage of it's gotta be over a minimum of 4-foot height. And there's calculations based on the slope, what you can actually include for floor space as part of the square footage.
Yeah, so I'm estimating it'll be 1,600. It may be actually less than that because I am dormering some of the second floor to get a little more headspace to put the bathrooms up there, but I'm not dormering the whole thing, so it won't be counted as full square footage. So it'll be, so actually the final square footage as far as the town is concerned would probably be even smaller, like 1,500 square feet.
Okay, but I guess what I'm just trying to understand where the garage fits into this, the all of the figures. So the maximum coverage is supposed to be 20%, and as it stands, it's 15.6%,
Right.
and that doesn't include.
That does not include the carport.
Right, and you're proposing to make it cover 31.6%, not including the garage.
No, that includes the garage. That's percent of lot. So that includes all the porches, garage, that covers every bit of house.
Okay, but
Yeah.
so the 31.6 includes the garage.
Yes.
But the garage is not included in the 1,600 square foot.
Never is.
Okay.
It's not considered living space.
Okay, I'm not,
yeah.
I'm just trying to understand the number.
Yeah.
But you can go from about 800 roughly square feet that you have to 1,600 square feet
Mm-hmm.
without adding the garage. Is what I'm asking.
No.
Okay.
The second floor of the garage is considered living space.
Okay.
So if I didn't get the garage, I would be looking at
Like a loss of like 30 to 40 square foot.
more than that, like 200.
Yeah, but with the-
It's
with
20,
the slope.
22 by, yeah, I mean, it's,
264 square feet.
yeah. I'd be losing a lot of really valuable storage space in a very small house.
Okay, I guess that's all the questions I have.
I think all the questions at this point have really been exhausted. And any questions I had have already been asked, or variants of them. So at this point, we would entertain a motion to close.
I'll move to close
Mr. Curran,
the hearing.
Second?
second by Mr. Hardiman. Any discussion? Seeing none. So yay vote will close and nay will keep it open. We'll just do it by hand vote. So all those who approve to close,
Can I ask one more question?
too late,
Sorry.
sorry.
Okay, thanks.
So to close, that's, we got 4 to not close and to abstain. You gotta pick one.
Okay, fine.
Abstain, so
Not-
401. It is 4 approved to close, 1 abstains. So that is closed. So at this point, we'll start the discussion, and I always like to bring it back. If you get your folders out, go to the variance standard. It is a challenging standard to meet. The applicant, had made a statement earlier, especially in the village district, but that, a lot of homes don't meet the standard, which is true. A lot of homes don't meet the standard. But what other properties do or do not do does not, each property is its own specific case. The other properties may have increased, they may have done all sorts of stuff, but they may not have needed a variance. Again, a variance is a very strict standard, so we have, in this case, 3 very specific criteria that need to be met. First, there are special circumstances relating to the soil condition, shape, or topography of such land or structure. Second would be a literal interpretation of the provision of the Town of Easton zoning bylaw would involve a substantial hardship, financial or otherwise. And third, desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. So we'll start with the first one. And opening the discussion is special circumstance related to soil condition, shape, or topography of such land or structure. So obviously the lot at 4,500 square foot, very small lot. And I don't think there's any disagreement there. However, that it's such that it needs to be different, that the lot size is very different than other lots in the area that makes it stand out. It's not just, hey, it's a small lot, I deserve it. And there are other lots in the village district that are very small. So I wouldn't say that it's specifically unique. I would say personally, shape topography is a challenge, but I don't think it's necessarily unique from other property in the village district. I don't know if anybody has anything to add.
I know that it's a corner lot on a pond.
Okay. So you're saying that would be something that would make it unique?
Well, not totally unique. I'm sure there are other corner lots on ponds. I'm just saying that it's different from others.
But in that general area is what that specifically means.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's on a corner, I mean, that stands out to me, and that it's
Okay.
very.
Right. Any other discussion on that point?
I think the property is also situated on one side of the property. The structure is situated on one side of the property, which limits your abilities to, expand and might require you to need some variances.
And the view issue also, the going back to the pond and just how the two buildings are.
But that has nothing to do with the variance standard, so we're not going to entertain that discussion.
Okay.
I see you trying to come up with something, John.
Yeah, no.
I can see the steam coming.
No, it's not steam, I don't think. Maybe it's wood burning. Well, I mean, I would say that the special circumstances, and maybe this is kind of echoing what Jeremy was just saying, but the shape of the lot in relation to how the house was built makes it difficult to create a structure that would really align with what we're, hoping for or looking for when it comes to modern homes. I mean, I suppose, you could forget about all that extension on the back and then go off to the right, but then that creates another whole set of circumstances. I mean, the house is currently constituted is I would suggest borderline worthless unless some way is found to improve it. And I think that considering the shape of the lot and the limited amount of room that one has to try to improve it, that would be a special circumstance in my mind.
Well, I guess my question to that would be, is it the board's job to grant variances so people can do so much improving to it that they're making a non-conforming more non-conforming, which is always the challenge I have. There, in a pre-existing non-conforming, we're going to have non-conformity, and if we're making non-conforming one standard more non-conforming, it's a little more palatable than making 2 or 3 standards more non-conforming. We're going from non-conforming to extremely non-conforming.
Yes, I get your point, and I know that this is something that we've struggled with
Every time.
in the past, earlier this year, in relation that I can think of to one particular piece of property. It's still staying virtually within the same footprint that it has now, other than the fact that there's this carport that, I don't know, to me looks like it was slapped together. I'm not sure that it's necessarily fair to then say, well, there wasn't a permit issued and that can't be considered part of what what the owner wants to try to do. And as it is,
Can you explain that a little bit more, or you lost me?
okay, so in other words, this carport is something that was constructed without a permit. And apparently, there's never been an effort on the part of the town to have it taken down.
That's at the discretion of the code enforcement officer, who is the building inspector, and the building inspector would have the opportunity at any point to say, you know, this is non-conforming and we have no permit on file.
Right.
But generally, once it's more than 10 years, it's kind of statute of limitations has passed.
Okay, yeah, and we don't know when it was put up.
Correct.
But, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll stand by my comments, whether you think they're directly relevant or not. I still think that this is an effort, considering the size of the lot, is an effort to try to stay within the size of the lot, although
So do you think it's normal to have a structure come within 8 inches of the property line? I mean, that's what we're being asked. I mean, the setback is, it's a significant, that's what I'm struggling with the most, is it's a significant ask, and is a garage a requirement in a property? No. You know, we can certainly see trying to make something age in place, something I have experience with, and certainly appreciate applicants' efforts on that, and I think it's certainly notable. The desire to have a garage is great, but we're being asked to be within 8 inches of the property line. And she happens to own the property next door, so there isn't an abutter who has a potential to complain because she is the abutter.
right,
So there's no one here to complain that it's getting too close.
right. But with a demonstrated, when you look at the other properties that have been improved, I mean, there's definitely.
You can't, because they're all individuals, and we don't know if any of them required variances.
No, I'm talking about the properties that she's purchased and improved,
Okay.
including the one that's in the photo
Oliver
right now,
Street?
the 11, and I'm not talking about all of them, I'm talking about
Andrew.
11 Andrews Street.
Go ahead.
So, I don't want to take these out of order, but to me, that part of it goes to the last part of prong C, which does it substantially derogate from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. And I don't, that's where I get hung up. Maybe they're kind of intertwined in how you,
Well, what do you think the intent and purpose of the bylaw is?
well, to have space between the properties. And
So 8 inches is enough
Eight-
space?
no, I don't, that's what I'm saying is I don't know that it is.
Right, I'm gonna build a structure 8 inches from
That,
your house.
right, that troubles me. That troubles me. And that's where this is losing me is on the fact that somebody put an illegal carport 10 inches from the property. I don't know that we should be substantially derogating the intent of the bylaw, or we would be substantially derogating the intent of the bylaw to approve of a garage being 8 inches from the property line. That's where I don't know. I don't know if we're intertwining the points, but that's where I'm caught up on it.
Can I just point out?
Nope, it's not open to the public.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Can I ask, I guess this is a question. When it comes to these 3 standards, are we supposed to be considering each one in isolation, or do we take the 3 of them, evaluate them,
That's
and
open
then,
to interpretation.
and as a whole, decide that while maybe it's not so much meeting A, there's more than enough for C or B, so that in the end, and we'll just have to decide it. But I'm just asking the question, I guess, generally, and maybe for everyone else on the board to consider, whether or not we look at the 3 criteria and then arrive at an evaluation based on the totality of how we're looking at all of those, rather than each one in isolation.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I'm new to the board, so forgive me if I'm wrong here, but my understanding is that the intent of zoning laws historically has been to create harmony in communities, to avoid disharmony and disputes among neighbors, and to try to have similar properties in similar areas. You know, your business district is separated from your residential district, separated from your industrial district. And now it's gotten more refined over time, and now there's different regulations and rules about setbacks and density and things along those lines. But I think generally speaking, like the intent of bylaws is to make sure that people live in harmony. I think that this property there are special circumstances. The property is very small. I think it being in the neighborhood it's in with a lot of small lots, and I'm not necessarily saying that we have to consider other lots might have gotten variances or not, or things along those lines. But I think that this property would be, in the proposed modifications, would be in harmony with the neighborhood. And I think you take into consideration what these other properties look like, and lots of them do have setbacks, maybe not 8 inches or a foot or whatever is proposed for the garage, but a lot of them have, they're tight lots, so they have similar situations. However they got there, I don't know. But I think when we look at the special circumstances of this property, it's a small piece of land, it's a small house, it's situated awkwardly on the property, and one of the values of the property in the neighborhood is the pond and the view of the pond. And I think that the owner has come up with a proposal to take advantage of that, which is in harmony with the neighborhood. I think the owner has also tried to develop a modified property that will not impact the abutter, which she also happens to own. And I recognize that, you know, you mentioned that she owns that property, so there's nobody to complain about the setback. But I'm going to imagine that other neighbors in the area, other abutters, and maybe abutters of abutters got notice, and there's nobody here to complain about that, which suggests to me that maybe they think this is in harmony with the neighborhood as well. My opinion is that certainly an improvement over the structure that's there, not just for the owner and the potential tenants, but for the neighborhood and the community. I think it's a really good proposal. I recognize that it has some challenges to the specific requirements that we need to find to approve a variance, but I do think there are special circumstances. I do think that there would be substantial hardships if we adopt an interpretation that didn't allow us to do this. And the hardships would be not just for the owner.
So you're saying not being able to put on a garage is a hardship? I want to make sure I'm understanding you clearly.
I think that
I think so.
I think that the
Disagree.
property in total, the proposed modification.
The house could be bumped out without a garage. And it would still be too close for the setback, but I think it'd be palatable. I can't get past the 8 inches.
Well, I think the proposal is trying to take into consideration what people expect in modern living situations these days, and what people.
8 inches from a property line.
Well, I understand.
Okay.
But I think these days, people have certain expectations about what they want in a home, what they expect in a home. And I think that certainly 8 inches is, I mean, that's really, really close. But the property owner happens to own that property, which I think.
So then it's okay.
Well, I think it minimizes the concern. If they were ever to sell the property, any owners would know what they're buying when they look at the property. They can buy it or not buy it. And there are no other neighbors, abutters or abutters of abutters here to complain about it.
So if someone went, and I'm playing devil's advocate, isn't to bust your chops. So someone who's wealthy goes in, buys a bunch of lots together, and builds everything up to within 6 inches, 8 inches, pick a distance. It's regardless, way non-conforming to the extreme. And because they own all of them and nobody is there to complain about it, then it should just be okay.
No, I wouldn't agree with that. But I think that this situation is, I know you said you didn't think it was unique. I think it's unusual, maybe very unusual.
I didn't necessarily say it wasn't unique. It is a tight lot. it is a corner lot, there's all those sort of things. Is it super unique to the village district? No, there are other lots that are similarly sized. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think overall, 30,000-foot view, it's a significant improvement over what's there. And certainly the owner would have some benefit from it, but I think the neighborhood and the community would have some benefit from it. And the owner, the property line that is most impacted happens to be owned by the same person, who clearly isn't objecting to it. But also, and just as importantly, no other abutters are objecting to it. I think it's a good project.
I don't disagree that I completely
It's
agree it's a
tight,
good
though.
project. Mr. Hamburger.
I think we have to look at it as what it does to the neighborhood. It's going to improve the neighborhood.
That's not a variance standard. So let's stick to the variance standard. We're not going on feelings. We're going on variance standard, because if for some reason someone ends up in a court of law, that's how we have to follow it, to the variance standard. Just want to make sure we stay on track, that's all.
Well, the house was pre-existing to begin with. The owner wants to improve it to meet current building codes, standards, uses. The lot was created 100+ years ago, prior to any zoning. And to allow for the garage that will probably never have a car in it and will only be used for storage of
Okay, regardless.
regardless.
Yep.
And the fact that it's 8 inches, the current structure is already 8 inches
Well-
or close enough.
Well, can I ask, if it wasn't a garage and it was the house, living area that went all the way to within 8 inches, would we be having the same discussion? Or would you be asking her to modify the house to make more space?
Well, I might look at it as making a condominium association of the land, connect the two parcels, and then they don't need the setback.
That's a possibility, but that's not what we're here to discuss. See, I like your out-of-the-box thinking. We're not here to determine that. So, I don't know if there's any more discussion on it.
I'll just say we've thrown around the word unique. I don't know that that's the word that's in the rule here. Special circumstances, not unique. I think I can get over A. And a hardship, we can argue about whether it's a hardship or not to have a garage. The part I don't mean to keep repeating myself. My wife tells me I do that. Is without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. I just don't see how we don't do that by nullify the bylaw essentially by putting an 8-inch setback. That seems like exactly what nullifying the bylaw would be to me. Is saying, okay, the bylaw says some amount of feet, and we're saying 8 inches.
Okay, so at this point, I think I appreciate everybody's input on this. I think at this point, we're starting to talk in circles, if everybody would agree. So at this point, I think it would be appropriate to entertain a motion. From Mr. Hamburger.
I'll make a motion that we approve the variance.
All right, we have a motion to approve variance.
I'll second it.
We'll second it. So at this point, any further discussion? Okay, so as we've been doing, we'll start off with the yay is approving. So all those in favor of approving?
Yay.
Yay.
That's 3. All those opposed? 2. That does not pass. You need 4 to pass. So unfortunately, we're not able to get it through on here. You could certainly submit another plan and attempt a variance in the future, but the current plan, unfortunately, that it can't get past that 8 inches. I'm sorry.
I did want to point out, the house next door is 8 feet off to the side. There's plenty of walking space between the two houses. It's not that they're cramped together within inches of each other. There's a fence and several feet and a walking path between the two. I don't know if that made any difference, but the houses don't feel like they're on top of each other. I wouldn't hurt the value of either of my properties.
No, I understand that. No, the standard is not the space between the physical structures, it's the property line. And that is why we couldn't get it through. So, sorry we couldn't get it done for you. Can you try again?
Can
With a
I? I
modified-
mean,
with a modified plan.
But what would that look like? Because
Obviously not as close as 8 inches.
I liked everything else about it.
Everything else is beautiful. Love the idea, love the layout. It's the garage. If it wasn't a garage, and this is just me talking personally now because this hearing is over, but if it were the house with a garage extended that far, I think the board would ask you to move the house back to provide some space. The fact that we have the garage trying to get a garage in, I understand.
well,
but
I wanted the garage hidden behind
I get
the
it.
antique house.
Yep.
I didn't want to. I wanted the beauty of the antique house to be what you see in the front and not.
I understand.
Okay. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our 6:40, which is, at this point, 7:42. All right, is the applicant Solely Engineering on behalf of Phillips Edison and Company.
So it's here and there.
Yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is probably just keep this up the entire time.
Okay, you're not gonna use this.
No, I think I'll use that.
Oh,
And
okay.
just have them so they can see.
Just
This one
see if it's
has
gonna work. Oh, it's up. Just be careful with it.
I also have 11 by 17 copies. It's just a little different from the plan set. Just
So have these been uploaded to Permitized? Is any
no,
modifications?
they have no. There's no modifications.
Oh.
So it's just a presentation material.
Okay.
You can look through the plan set because they're going to be up there too.
Yeah.
So you don't need this.
Yeah, if anybody want one, physical hard
Sure.
copy.
Okay.
Yeah, keep that around. There you go.
Old school. Your staple there.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. K, do you want to read this one in the record, sir?
I will try it. Town of Easton public hearing. Thank you. The Easton Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, November 12, 2024 at 6:40 p.m. at the Easton Town Hall, Colleen Corona Boardroom, 136 Elm Street, Easton, Mass. On the following petition. Special permit, Solely Engineering LLC on behalf of Phillips Edison and Company for a property located at 690 Depot Street, Easton, Assessors Map 45U, Lot 47A, for a special permit pursuant to Easton Code Book, Chapter 235, Zoning, Section 235-56, Special Permits and Appendix A-2, Table of Use Regulations, E5 and E4. Applicant seeks permission for a drive-through window in connection with a restaurant that will have seasonal outside seating. The notice is also available on masspublicnotices.org. Easton Board of Appeals, Ryan Cook, Chair. Comments received. The building department recommended. The fire department and DPW complete. Planning and zoning board voted to recommend. Board of Health and environmental planner indicated not applicable. Historical Commission and Affordable Housing Trust, not applicable. No response from police or water. I think that's it.
Fantastic. Floor's all yours.
Perfect. For the record, my name is Casey Birch. I am a project manager at Solely Engineering, the lead design for Site Civil on this project. We're offices out of 11 Vanderbilt Avenue in Norwood. I'm here on behalf of Philip Edison Company to discuss the special permit application for the proposed fast casual restaurant located at 690 Depot Street. I'm going to use fast casual. I'm pretty sure everybody knows it's a Chipotle at this point, but I'm just going to, because that's how I wrote it down. But there's no hiding it. It's in the application all over the place. So.
Can I ask a question?
Well, it's not really a question period. He's just opening statements. Do you have any clarification on something?
Yeah, you'd mentioned it's a Chipotle at this point. Could that change?
No. That's what this application's for. Sorry, I didn't mean confusion. So as previously mentioned, this project's located at 690 Depot Road. It's within the area of the existing Shaw's Plaza. It's situated in the western portion of the property. I don't know if you guys have been out in the area, but there's a huge, pretty large landscaped area currently out there right now. That's kind of the area that we're looking at. It's east of Depot Street, which is along here, south of the existing shopping center is south of it, so it's north of the shopping center, west of the shopping center. Yep, it's north of the Burger King, and so it's roughly, I believe, I think it's 0.8 acres of developable area in that swath.
And from what I saw, this separately deeded. This wasn't owned. Because I saw there's a deed, so is this like a land lease, or the land has already been purchased?
It's already owned
subject
by
to?
the same people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is a land lease.
You're right, correct. At the moment, yeah. So the applicant is proposing to not go that far. Apologies. Different sizes on this. I'm thinking about that. So the applicant is proposing a 2,325 square foot fast casual restaurant with a drive-up window for online orders only. I'll get into that a little later. The site is located in the Furnace Village Depot Street sub-district, which allows restaurants, but drive-throughs are permitted under the special permit, which is why I'm in front of you guys tonight. The drive-up window, it's not a typical drive-through facility. It does not have order boards. It does not have an order menu. It's for online orders only. So the place, if you're familiar with it, has their own app. You order online, you get a time to come pick it up. Most of the facilities now, you just park, you go into the store, you pick up your order from the shelf. They're trying to build a lot of these now. A couple of them have already been constructed where it's you drive up at the time you're allotted. So if let's say your order is ready at 12:30, that's when you would pull up to the window, ask for your food, and they would hand it to you. Now, in case that there is if it's not ready, we are designating 2 spots out in the parking field here for.
Can you hold on a
Yep,
second?
sure.
Suzanne, can you ask them to take that outside? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So there's two designated spots for if their order's not ready, they can park and then go in directly and pick it up, wait for it in there. We have 23 parking spaces currently with 2 ADA parking accessible spaces right in front of the store's entrance, right here. There is a patio area, about 500 square feet, a little more than 500 square feet. I think that houses about 14 to 16 seats. The total is 54 seats, both in and out. So I think there's 40 internal, and then the rest are usually patio seating. The dumpster area is here, and that'll be enclosed by a CMU block enclosure. Typically, we like to have the gate be board-on-board gate fencing. So it just adds a little more of appeal than the chain link fence. There are some modifications that we have to do to the existing Shaw's Plaza. If you notice right here, there's an existing septic field out front which services the existing Burger King, which is to the south. There is an easement that runs along right in here, through here. They do not want to go on to public sewer, so they want to keep that. So, which is the reason why our establishment or development is set further back than it is, because we can't build on top of that septic. So to do that, we do have to modify the Shaw's Plaza a little, taking away 29 parking spaces from that plaza. It's already overparked as is per the town code and per what we've seen out there. And then we're redirecting this main drive aisle a little further up. Right now, it kind of just goes straight through here. So we're just adjusting it a little to make this, to accommodate the development. And I can show you that in the next one a little better. Maybe. So you can see the parking spaces, the existing spaces here. They're just gonna be adjusted, and new islands are being put in. In addition to that, we are extending the existing sidewalk. It ends right here, right now. So we'll be extending it into the shopping plaza up to this point, and then coming across here. I'm on the utility plan. Let me move that up. And then there's a crosswalk coming across to the main entrance. So there will be pedestrian accessibility from Depot Street. That's pretty much the site plan. Still grading. We are increasing impervious area. I'm not sure the exact number, but we did provide a stormwater management report as well, so it is in there. But to mitigate that increase of impervious area, we did provide a infiltration basin to the south here. So that'll collect all the water from this development we collected. That'll go through catch basins with 4-foot sumps, hooded outlets, and then it will go through a hydrodynamic separator, which is a water quality unit, and then we'll enter the infiltration basin. That basin has been designed to attenuate the total recharge volume, which is a Massachusetts standard. And then any overflow or excess for larger storm events will connect into the existing existing conveyance system within Shaw's Plaza, which goes, I believe, to the back. There's like a wetland area way back that I think it ties into. But we don't increase peak flows because of this basin, and the volumes stay less as well. So. Utilities, we are tying into the existing sanitary sewer line to the west here, and then it will come in and tie to the front. Obviously we have a kitchen component to our establishment, so we will provide a grease trap for that waste. Electric, there's a telephone pole out in front on Depot Road here. We're going to travel down to the transformer in the rear of the building and then come in. Obviously telecom and cable will follow suit. Obviously not go through the transformer, but it will follow a similar path. Gas actually is pretty close too. There's a existing main in Depot Street here. We're tying in just south of the main site drive, and then coming into the back as well. And then water, we're actually tying over here. I believe there might be. We're not tying off the existing lateral. I don't think it's big. It's bigger than the 2-inch, and all we need is 2-inch domestic to service this facility. So that'll be tied in right here as well. And then obviously because of the modifications within the Shaw's Plaza, there were a few telephone poles, 2 of them actually, that we had to relocate and included as part of that plan as well. So we'll put them in these landscape islands here. This is our landscape plan. It's pretty minimal, but we are providing a few trees here that up against the side, between the sidewalk and the bypass lane, which I forgot to mention. This drive-through facility will have a bypass lane, even though we don't foresee it ever being used, but just in case. We don't foresee any more than 3 cars being queued up in this area, so that's probably a good thing to mention too. So those trees are sweet gum, and then we're providing a row of grasses in the form of switchgrass along the patio railing here. And then in this area here, we're doing a combination of grasses and shrubs at the entrance of the facility to the east. And then the rest of the area will be seeded lawn. We're obviously not going to touch the area. This grass is established now. And then there's the wet mix. The New England wet mix will be within the basin. So our lighting plan, we're proposing 7 new poles in this development area and 4 wall pack building lights. All of them will be dark sky compliant, downward fixtures to avoid any spillage actually off the actual developable area itself. So, you know, typical standards nowadays. And I did want to mention that this facility, the typical hours of operation are 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. We did a traffic assessment that we submitted as well. The traffic engineer came out to, I'll read it in the record exactly. The proposed development will not have an adverse impact to the roadway network and will not have an impact on the traffic operating conditions in the studied area. And just to let you know, there's in the PM peak hour midday, weekly, there's about 29 new trips added to the network because of this facility. So that's about 1 car every 2 minutes in that peak hour. Obviously, it will fade before and after. It will be less than that. And in the peak hour on a Saturday, they're thinking about 76, so about 0.8 cars within that hour or 1 car every 0.8 minutes for that 1 hour, and then it will fade as well. So again, no adverse impacts to the road area network. And yeah, that pretty much ends my spiel on what we're trying to propose.
All right, so do we have any questions from the public?
I was trying to figure out.
So what you need to do is, we need to come to the microphone because we record it. And we want to make sure folks can hear. And what you do is you'll announce your name and your address, and then you'll direct the questions to the chair. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kelly Sweeney, 3B Greenwood Village Street, which is very close to this area. So my concern was where the drive-through, if it would be coming out onto like Depot Street or Foundry Street, because the traffic in that area already can be challenging. So I wanted to find out what that traffic pattern would look like and how it would impact, you know, trying to get out onto the main roads in that area. So.
Yeah, I mean, from what I can see, and I'll let the applicant respond, but you know, one of the key things when I was reviewing this is all the traffic is heading into basically the Shaw's Plaza, not being dumped directly out onto Depot Street or Foundry Street, but I'll allow the applicant to address that for you.
Yeah, so that's correct. We are providing the entrance into the development within the shopping plaza. And we kind of wanted to do this to utilize both Depot and Foundry, I believe, because there is a connection down here as well. So it's just ideal for, and I know I've been out here, I've seen people do utilize this as a through. So it was just kind of ideal just to have it in the middle but yeah, we did have original plans back in the day when we were thinking about maybe if they Burger King tied into, that we would have like a ride out only, but those plans are diminished once Burger King said, we'll keep this. So.
That's all I have, thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate the question. All right. Any other questions from the public?
Mr. Chairman, have you said who's sitting on this?
Oh.
Am I public or?
It's the same five, so right now you're a member of the public.
I'm a member of the public. I do. I have questions as a member of the public.
Okay.
Thanks. How are you, sir?
How you doing?
Do you have a front plan anywhere, something that shows what the typical, like a Chipotle would look like, or what do we?
We did not, as part of the submission, we did not provide the typical prototypical building. I can definitely get that for you, but it's essentially, we don't have any.
Models, right?
Yeah, but I think this is going to be a general Chipotle. I don't think there's anything drastic on the architecturals that is different from most new models, I guess. But I'd understand if you don't know what that looks like.
It might be nice to know.
Right, right.
So is this Chipotle is still? I mean, is this still not a franchise but company owned? Is this a non-franchised entity?
I'm not actually sure on that one, to be honest.
And do you have an idea of what percentage of the business is sit down and what or inside or on the terrace as opposed to the pickup?
Well, I know that I don't know that percentage breakout, especially since this drive-through is kind of a new model. But I know that they only require roughly 20 spaces. We're providing 23, so I think their model now is more pick up and go rather than stay into the and sit and eat type
So
deal.
how many? I'm trying to get a sense of the number of employees that are going to be on the premises. I mean, how many people
Right.
are working? If it's three people at a window, it's one thing. But
Right. I understand. I'm not the exact number. I think it's like around 10, but I can get that number for you.
Okay, and their parking is accounted for.
Yes,
As
yeah.
part of your parking. Right?
Correct,
You're
yeah.
not going to throw them into Shaw's.
Yep, like I said, prototypically they only require 20, and that's with employee spaces. So, yeah.
Okay, and some of those are handicapped, I suppose.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And when are deliveries scheduled to be made?
I think the last time I did one of these, it was like a Tuesday morning. And they do it like once a week. But no, they do it every morning. Sorry, that's a different. So it's like early in the morning, around like 6 a.m. They
So
come in.
before the operating hours.
Yes,
Okay.
because they actually drop it off, and then when they all have keys to it, so they drop off for the fresh product, and then that's when the employees come in. They actually have the stuff to work with that day. That's their business model.
Okay, and for all this landscape and paved area, where do you propose? You mentioned where the trash goes. Where does the snow removal go? Does that go dumped into Shaw's lot?
No, I mean we do have there's some flat area here, but obviously we'd like to avoid that because of the detention basin. There's areas here, there's flat areas here, and anything excess. I mean we can definitely haul off, but I'm not sure what the plaza does now, but they have areas designated for this.
I didn't know if your stuff is all going under theirs or whatever. All right, that's it. Nothing further from this member of the public.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to members of the board. Mr. Hardiman, do you have anything?
I have a couple of questions. Thank you.
Fire away, sir.
Hi, how are you? You had mentioned that the dumpsters are going to typically enclosed in board-on-board fencing as opposed to chain link?
Sorry, the gates are board on board. And the dumpster enclosure is actually a CMU wall that will replicate similar to the coloring that they decide for the building.
And is it the intention to have the board-on-board enclosure at this location?
Yes, for the gates, we did provide that in our details.
Okay. How many parking spots will the Shaw's Plaza lose?
Yeah, let me.
29.
Yeah, so I want to tell you guys what they have total still. So they'll lose 29, and they will still have 561. And your regs only require 213, so we're in excess of almost 300 spaces. more than
Okay.
300 spaces.
The sidewalk on the exterior of the property, does that go all the way to Depot Street, or is there a break in it?
Yes, it breaks right here and then stops. So, oh, you mean this way? Yeah, is there a sidewalk? I didn't actually know that. I'm not even sure.
No, there is.
So it just
no
stops?
sidewalk. It does. It's just lawn, and it goes out to the sort of breakdown lane.
Oh, okay.
But in
So,
your
so
picture,
it ends here.
Yeah, so yeah, it comes up to there, and then there's sidewalk across the street. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
but in your picture, if you follow the sidewalk up towards Depot Street, there appears to be a break in the sidewalk.
Yeah. So this is actually it looks like they used concrete here,
Yep.
and then they used asphalt sidewalk here and
Okay.
stopped it. We're actually going to continue with concrete, which I mean we could. I think we did concrete, but we could continue it as asphalt or whatever the
Yeah,
commission
I mean, it
wanted.
really is concrete, and then it turns into a berm.
Yeah.
It's not sidewalk.
Okay. You mentioned that they anticipate no more than 3 cars in the queue at a time.
Yeah, that's typically what I think they've calculated, being able to get the food from where they have stored, handing it over, and then if people come with roughly the same time, because you can probably provide 3 people with a 12:30 time slot, if the food's gonna be ready by then. Or then they add another 10 minutes for, then it'll be 12:40, those people should come 10 minutes later. So I think operationally, they do it with only 3 in the queue for that time slot.
But operationally, would they change that practice?
I'm not really sure. This is what we've been told. They don't really expect more than 3 in the queue. I mean, could they change? Maybe, but there is enough for, I believe it's 10 cars in that.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Hardeman? Oh, excuse me, Mr. Hamburger. Jeez,
Got to get your H's
I
right.
do.
Is this the first drive up that Chipotle's having?
No, they've had other. It's a fairly new model over the last 5 years, but yeah, this won't be the first. It'd be cool if it was.
And they've made arrangements for us old people that don't know how to use an app?
Yes, you definitely can still park and go in.
That's it?
I'm all set.
Okay. Mr. Curran?
Yeah. The I'll call it the drive-through window, for want of a better description, because it's really not. But does DoorDash get involved with Chipotle in any way?
I have seen that, yes, and I believe they are treated just like any other customer. They get a time slot as well, similar to if they had to go into the store. But I have seen. I'm a frequent Chipotle customer, so I have seen DoorDash and other, that type of platform come in, pick up the food, and then go.
I think you just, with your comment, answered the question that I was going to ask, which is, would DoorDash or some other, phone app delivery service be required to use that window to pick up orders? Or would they be coming in and going inside to pick things up?
I believe they use I believe they'd still use the people that actually take the order would still use the Chipotle's app for that. I could be wrong, but that is a good question. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I would assume if they got the time slot, they could still go through that window. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I have to confess, I don't know much about DoorDash.
I do
'Cause
not
I've
have
never
that
done
app
it.
either. So
I just know that it exists.
yeah.
And I'm just wondering if, there would be a circumstance where you've got 8 DoorDash drivers showing up there at the same time to pick up an order.
Well, I think they still have to, the system would still have to give them that time slot. Because you can't, I think even DoorDash has to order through the Chipotle because they won't be able to, take your order without that app. So it definitely is intertwined because I've seen them come in and take it from the same spot that we take it to.
And so, but by virtue then of the way this operates, is there a longer waiting time if there's more orders to pick up? In other words, if 10 people all call in an order at the same time, would all 10 of them be showing up at the same time at that window, or are the pickup
They have
times
control of
staggered?
that. Yeah, they have control of that time slot. So they could be like 12 o'clock, 12:05, 12:10. And again, if your food isn't ready, then they'll have you park in those designated spots. But no, yeah, that is a concern. You're right. But I believe they have control of the time slots, and this system would probably trigger, too many in this time slot. So.
Okay.
And you do have the option of parking still and going in too, I believe. Yeah. So it's not like they're taking that from you. Just
I'm
in case
not,
you
yeah,
don't use it,
I
but-
just would imagine that, DoorDash wants to get their orders quickly. I don't know that they'd want to pull up. Again, I don't know a lot about it, other than the fact that it exists, but.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, they probably saw the trend that it was going, and they decided to develop these, maybe because of that. I'm not really sure though.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
So, just so I can try to keep my eye on the ball here, the only thing we're being asked to consider is whether to approve a drive-through window, right? Oh, and outdoor dining. Got it. So the outdoor dining is subject to a special permit too. Got it. Okay. And the drive-through window that we're being asked to consider is not like what I would normally think of, where there's no ordering going on. It's all by app, and that would be something that we could like make as a limitation of what we're authorizing. Maybe that I'm just wondering if that could change at some point.
Well, so one of the concerns, if you're thinking to the other restaurant in the corner, the concern was queuing because people ordering at the board, and there's no board where people come up and order. It's in advance, and what the applicant is explaining is that the system limits the number of folks. There's a time slot, so you'll make your order, and it will tell you when you can come and get it.
Right, that makes it more palatable to me, but I'm just asking, could that change at some point, or could we make it so it can't change?
We can do anything we want.
Okay.
So I will say operationally, putting a menu board in this wouldn't work for any of the sites that they have. A lot of them only are providing a 6 queue for a lot of the other sites that we are a lot more than that. But if you put a menu board, that would have to be typically at the 7th car. So you're already outside of the drive-through in a lot of these.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, I mean, is this this is maybe I'm just being stupid here, but is the special permit transferable? Like, could Chipotle sell it to a Dunkin' Donuts, which would then have a menu board if we don't put some kind of restriction on it?
Well, this special permit is attached to the applicant. So if the applicant, they change ownership, the new person would have to come in for.
Okay, so got it. That's helpful to know. I didn't know that. All right.
It's attached to the applicant, not to the lot.
Got it. That's helpful. And so then, let's see, a couple more questions. Is this necessary for the business? Because it sounds like there are some that have it and some that don't, and it's a new model, I think you said. And like, what if we didn't allow it? Would Chipotle still be interested in this?
They're only currently doing new ground up facilities with this, so they would not build. It's just not worth it for them to build ground up now. If that was the case, they would go into a shopping plaza somewhere and pick a designated 2,500 square foot space if they could find it and stuff like that, and work out of that. The only ground
they
ups-
have those though, right?
Yeah, they do, right. The only ground up so that they really want is with the drive-through.
Okay. Can you help me? I can't read the paint that is on the street, either on the one that you gave me or I guess it's the print is too small. And I was just trying to read what it says on the.
Like my readers.
Well, I don't know that it'll even help me, to be honest. It's so bad I can't even see it.
So with the arrows, you mean?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the arrows and
Yeah.
I can obviously see the arrows. I just can't see the words
They
are.
say digital pickup ahead.
Digital pickup ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. And then I guess one part of it that stands out at me is I see arrows pointing at each other, where it says do not. I can see the do not enter where they're coming out. Is there any concern about that area where the arrows are pointing towards the?
No, those arrows are only there to express that is two-way travel up to that do not enter point. If it was closer, I'd have concerns of people messing up the arrow situation. But we want to be able to have people be able to park near the patio area, like in that area, and it's just explaining to people that it is two-way up to a point, and then you pull out and you drive back that way. But the do not enter is there to, and there's also signage associated with that as well, two signs on each side that say do not enter.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I had a couple questions. So the trees you have along the entry coming in off of Depot Street, you have 3 sweet gum or liquid amber trees. I have experience with liquid amber trees because my first house in San Jose, California, the street was lined with liquid amber trees. They are not deep rooted. The roots go all over the place, and they rip up sidewalks and roads. So I would want to see something different.
Okay.
Beautiful trees, and not even mentioning the spiky fruited balls that fall off, and the sap that runs almost all summer, clear sap that sticks to everything is very hard to wash off. Makes a mess of the roads, makes a mess of everything. Yeah, they're awful trees. Pretty, but awful. So I'd like to see something different there.
Do you know anything in the area that has survived that you've seen?
I've never
looks good?
seen any locally.
Okay. No, I mean, any other, like, any recommendations I can go back to with my landscape designer? I mean,
Something similar size. I mean, a
Okay.
good landscape designer will know, and they are pretty trees, and they are pretty leaves. And it's like 5-pointed leaves. Like, they're very pretty, but they make a mess and they tear up everything, and they make a mess. Currently in the lot, so where you have the retention area, if we're looking at that picture, like southwest of that, anytime there's any sort of precipitation at all, it's like swampland. It's like a giant pond. How is
this whole
that
area.
all being? Is all that land? It didn't look like it from the grading plan that all that is sloping back into that retention area as well.
yes.
It looked like it peaked at 135, went down to 133, 132. So just
Yeah, there's so in this area right here, there's a high point of like 134.75, and then this is a 143.
right, but I'm saying down more closer to the basically the roadway. Down closer to the Burger
Yeah,
King.
right here?
Yeah, down in there. That's
Yeah,
always
there is a
so-
berm here.
Yeah.
So it'll spill off this way or spill down into here.
Okay, but all that's going to be graded and then seeded?
Correct, with
okay.
a wetland seed mix, and then any overflow will actually enter the system.
Okay.
That's in Shaw's Plaza.
So currently in the plaza, there are multiple stop locations. So your plan, there's an existing one. If I'm looking at this same type view, to the right, closer to the clinic. But then there was, and also where the traffic is coming in from the Burger King over to this exit out in the Depot Street, because I cut through there all the time. There's a stop sign at that intersection as well? Are you proposing there's no stops anymore, and this is a right of way there, and there's only the one stop?
We weren't, but we could definitely put a stop sign here if
I'm just curious because I'm trying to determine who has right of way.
yeah, so we kind of designed it so this thoroughfare would have the right of way. So I guess if this area doesn't have a stop sign, then we would need to
And the only
provide.
reason I mention that is because, I mean, at this point, I've lived in town for 24 years, and I've been using that as a cut through for 24 years. And I know folks have lived in town a lot longer than I have and use that as a cut through. And if all of a sudden that there's no stop there, I think that's going to cause a problem for those of us who've been here so long that we're on autopilot.
Right, that makes sense.
So, and I didn't notice there's any sort of signage proposed at all. Is it just signage on the side of the building? I mean, right now there's a marquee sign on the opposite side of the entrance off of Depot Street. Is there any other proposed signage? At all?
Yeah, we were proposing a right in this location a monument sign. Let's see if I can zoom. I don't know. I'll read it from what it says right here for you. It's a pylon sign to be permitted by others prior to construction through a sign permit with the town. So
Okay, so that's something that you're going to go through that process
Building,
later
yep.
to get approval. Okay.
correct.
I'm just curious because there's a lot on all these drawings, and just some of it zooming in on the screen and moving around, like I missed that part. I think those were all the questions I had. Anybody else have any other additional questions?
No, I'm up there all the time as well. That's where we do a lot of our
So
grocery
you're
shopping.
sort of driving, heading towards Five Corners, and you're looking like, did it just turn green? Can I get through? Is it?
No, actually, I just do all our grocery shopping at Shaw's. So I pull in and out of there a lot. And it just in terms of what you were observing about stop signs, if you're pulling in from Depot Street, there isn't a stop sign when you get to the end.
Correct.
There
Those
is
folks
not.
have right away right now.
Correct. But if you pull in on that road, somebody once told me that it was actually a public road, or I don't know if it's true, but if you're pulling in from Foundry Street, once you get past the Burger King and then to this area where the right-of-way is coming in from Depot Street, there is a stop sign there.
Correct.
So it's the stop. Anybody that's in there trying to get out, there is a stop sign. But just for that one area, which I don't. Is that an issue when
Well,
it comes to this
'cause
restaurant, or is it just more in terms of how they control traffic
Well,
in the
so
plaza?
right now the way it is people can pull in off of Depot Street straight into the Shaw's Plaza, and they can just blow straight through.
Right.
But I don't know if these dividers are changed. Like, people are still going to drive straight through there.
Yeah, I believe this right here is the concern.
Yeah, and
Typically.
so right now those folks coming in have a right of way, and the folks coming in from Foundry cutting through, there's a stop sign there, and the folks coming from the opposite side of Shaw's coming up have a stop sign so that the folks coming in off of Depot have a right of way. And folks they don't slow down. They just keep coming through. So without having a stop sign or something to prevent folks from
No,
just blowing.
we can definitely mimic what's out there now. If that seems to be working, then
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
we can definitely include it.
I completely agree with you when it comes to the cars that come kind of barreling in.
All this stuff is have to go through DPW approval anyway.
Right. That's
And yeah, right.
right.
So, but those are the things that the signage, the stop sign, that basin that always fills up with water, and the liquid amber trees, which just need to go.
Not a fan.
Not a fan. Try to walk on one of those spiky balls barefoot. You will never like a liquid amber tree again. And try cleaning your car. All right, that's all I have on that. So we don't have any other questions?
I have one question.
Go for it, sir.
What time does the Burger King restaurant close?
Ooh, I am not sure. I can look it up.
I saw these.
I think it's 10 o'clock, but I don't know. Because as many times as I've been in that plaza, I've never been in the Burger King.
DoorDash.
Either
I've never done that.
I'm a big fan. I'll let you use it.
Or Uber Eats, or I don't have any of those.
Mr. Chairman,
Apparently, I'm
Mr.
too
Chairman,
old.
has the public lost all opportunity to ask a question?
I mean, typically, public has the opportunity, then the board does. I mean, I have discretion
12
if
a.m.
you really have a question.
Closes.
Thank you.
Well, Mr.
I have a question. Yeah. I'm still confused with apps, but that's, what happens to the poor guy that's 10 minutes late for his time?
They'll have your food ready, so they'll give it to you right away. It's going to be cold, but that's not the issue. If people come early, that would be an issue, which is why they have the designated parking areas. Or if the food's not ready, then yeah. But if you're late, they'll have your food. They don't throw it away. They keep it for a while. I'm pretty sure.
Ms. Rummel, you had an additional question?
Thank you. Just in terms of outside dining, my understanding, reading the definition in the code, it seems to indicate to me that outside dining anticipates table service. Is there any table service outside, or is it just people bringing?
People bringing their food outside. Yeah, there is no wait staff that will go out to.
Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right, no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to close.
I move to close.
Mr. Hardiman, we'll get you on the record for a second on that. All those in favor of closing, vote by hand as 5-0. So at this point it's closed, so time to deliberate. So remember, this is really having to deal with the drive-through and the outdoor dining. So is there any discussion?
Well, I mean, if, we're going to go through all the requirements. There's 6 of them. Social, economic, or community needs, which is served by the proposal. In a very limited sense, I would say that it's a preferable alternative to the model where you're going up to the drive-through with a board that you order off of, so it would cut down on the amount of traffic. And so in that very limited sense, I would say that it does serve a social, economic, or community need.
And it's also, another restaurant option in town, it's additional employment, jobs.
Yeah, I mean,
Those are all good things.
I agree. I don't understand how these 3 places can all coexist within, 100 yards of each other, but that's,
And they're all
that's
different.
probably.
I mean, one really is fast food. The 2 are fast food.
Right.
One is fast casual.
Right.
I haven't been to a Taco Bell in a very long time. I haven't been to a Burger King in a very long time. It's been a little while since it's Chipotle, but the closest one that I've been to is over in Mansfield. And you get out and you go in and you order. And
Yeah.
and
No,
you-
they are different places.
very different.
And if that's all, I mean, if anyone else wants to add to that, that's.
No, I agree with it. Since you guys were talking about the mechanics of Chipotle, I'll just say that I've been there, and I like going up and pointing at what I want and getting the pieces. I can't imagine ordering Chipotle by DoorDash, but I don't know. That besides that, I'm in favor of it.
All right. Any other comments on criteria 1? Okay. Criteria 2, traffic flow and safety, including parking and loading. So this is where I would look at, obviously, traffic flow and safety, additional car trips. It seems very minimal from their traffic study, again, by a licensed professional engineer. We can only go based off of that. Parking and loading more than meet criteria. And there is obviously lots of overflow parking if for some reason there's more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if it ever came to the point where they needed the overflow, you would have people crossing from that main parking area over to their restaurant. Maybe this is something, you know, for DPW down the road, but do you put in a crosswalk?
Yep. That may be something they require, but it's beyond the purview of this board.
Exactly.
So, third, adequacy of utilities and other public services. Again, the stuff like this, they don't take up a lot of utilities. I mean, water usage compared to probably very similar to anything as far as like, and just open question as far as water usage. These are very similar to, say, a single-family home in terms of water usage, or much more.
10 times as much.
Is it really?
Well, we don't have showers or anything, so you
Right.
could take that into account.
Yeah,
But
washing.
again, it's only a 2-inch main. That's all they
Yeah.
need.
Yeah.
So
So, in other public services, you know, gas, sewer, nothing out of the ordinary, especially for a business in a, you know, commercial business district. Neighborhood character, social structures, I mean, it's all businesses around there. And that was part of the planning where they started to relook at zoning in Easton and put the future plan together. Impacts on natural environment. There's, you know, the negative impact is a lot more impervious space, but it's all pervious now in swampland, so, or very swampy. And it's gonna be graded properly so that we don't have that, so that's probably likely to see some improvement. And probably will not have, you know, 100 geese around there going forward as well. I guess my only negative on the impacts on natural environment with the outside is without folks out to ensure, you know, cleaning of the tables and stuff like that, is there going to be, you know, refuse blowing around 5 corners?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that they'll have a barrel out there. I mean, people that eat outside typically will take their waste and just throw it in a barrel. It's right there. The business isn't predicated on having a wait staff come and remove things, so.
You're talking specifically about the outdoor seating area.
Yeah.
And as, I mean, again, this might just be my own personal bias, but as a practical matter, I don't know that a lot of people are going to be sitting out there, you know, because there's an outdoor seating area over at the Mobile across the
I've
street.
never seen anybody sitting
No.
there.
No, it just doesn't warrant that kind of thing. But, you know, that's probably, again, outside our purview.
And then potential fiscal impact, including impact on town services, tax base, employment, take into account any proposed mitigation. And that stuff, I mean, obviously, town, we're looking to increase tax base, obviously, relieve some of the burden on needing to come to the homeowners, constantly asking for overrides and other increases.
Right.
So, and Chipotle's been around a long time. How long they've been around, roughly? Do you have an idea?
I think 80s
Yeah.
is when they first started. Like,
So, you know, long-term stable business. And I would think that they would have done research to say this is an area that makes sense for their business model.
There's one in Brockton, there's one in Mansfield.
Is there one in Brockton?
There's
Yeah.
one at Westgate
In
Mall.
Westgate
in
Mall.
Westgate Mall.
So they're kind of getting
I never
plopped
go
right down
there.
in the middle.
I never go there. I go to Aldi. That's it.
Oh,
93.
There you go.
Apologies.
Okay. That was the 6 criteria in the special permit. Anybody have anything they want to add on that or have a different perspective? No?
nope.
Okay, I guess we will entertain a motion to either approve or deny a special permit.
I'll move to approve the special permit.
Any conditions?
No.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Hamburger. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, and vote by hand vote. That is 5-0. Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right,
All right.
get back to.
I will- just a quick thing. I will add, if you ever want a quesadilla, you cannot actually order that in line. You have to order that mobile only. So there are some items that might force people to use it. But I just want to let you guys know. I've run into that problem.
You want these
all
back?
yours.
Oh, no, you can
You're
have
gonna
it.
work on these.
All right, a couple.
We'll do sample point. But there's certain
Okay.
requirements for obviously excavating. Stand up.
Possible to get a fast food restaurant that sells
Yeah,
healthy
mine.
food.
Thank you. Oh.
No. I'll probably just,
You could probably put it on your wall at home.
I'll probably throw it in the
Okay,
recycling.
perfect. Yeah, I wrote it down.
All right, we have
Okay,
a
we
couple
have,
more items for the business meeting.
Oh, I forgot.
also, we have to sign a,
God, I had to-
Yeah, we'll do it once we finish all this stuff.
Oh, I forgot.
All right, so why don't we say, I'm looking, everybody had a chance to review the October meeting minutes. It was gigantic. It must have taken a half hour to read them.
Yes.
I read them,
Okay.
I read them.
but I wasn't here, so I can't.
So you can.
No, I know. I'm just,
All right, so I'll entertain a motion on review and approval of the meeting minutes from October.
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes from the October meeting.
I second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is unanimous. And then, has everybody seen the proposed calendar? This does have the updated November date on there for November 18th.
Yes.
So, we were trying to avoid an election day. There's an election again in November next year?
We can't ever have meetings on any holidays.
Um,
For what?
Selectmen? I don't know.
We can't schedule meetings on those days.
Okay. So we'll try and squeeze that in just before Thanksgiving. Anybody have any problems with any of the dates on here?
I just, and I think, Suzanne, I had sent you an email. I couldn't necessarily commit to the April meeting date, just,
State you're out.
no, I mean, I can explain, but, you know.
You don't have to. That's why we have alternates.
Yes, and, yes, the March one shouldn't be a problem, but April might be,
April.
or it might not be, I don't know.
Okay, so at this point, I'd entertain a motion to approve the 2025 meeting schedule for the Easton Zoning Board of Appeals.
I move to approve the,
Sorry, go ahead.
Ms. Rummel,
I move to approve the meeting schedule for the 2025.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hanberg has a second. Any discussion? I thought you were saying you had discussion.
I was-
All those in favor?
Uh-huh.
That is unanimous. All right, at this point, we need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I have discussion, so we vote on it and I say no, I have a question first before we adjourn.
For which?
For you and the board about how we approach variances, is that something that's done
Well,
in
yeah,
conversation afterwards, or?
I mean, we should be doing everything in front of the public.
Exactly.
We do have a motion on the floor to adjourn,
I'll withdraw it if
Okay.
you want
I'll
to.
withdraw the second.
so
if
we'll
I made it.
withdraw, so,
If you'll, and I apologize to everybody, I'm coming across here as the wicked witch of the west. But I feel that when we come to variances, and we've had a few now since I've had the pleasure of sitting here, we are not, it seems to me, on the same page. So, for example, I believe someone asked tonight, do they all have to be met, or any one of them have to? My
no,
understanding is
no,
they
it
all-
wasn't
wasn't
that.
the
It was that
question
they
asked.
need to be met individually, or can they be combined? Regardless, they need to be met.
But every one of them, you don't get to pick one and say.
No, that's not what he was implying.
Oh, okay.
He was just implying is, do they only have to be looked at individually, or they can be looked at all three together as, one flows into the other sort of thing, but they have to be met.
Conjunctively, not necessarily in an order. It's
Correct.
like you can meet two out of three and not meet the
And that is
requirement.
correct. Or it could, remember, it's it doesn't mean because it doesn't meet all three criteria that the board won't still decide to move forward with something.
Well,
It does open the town up to litigation if someone
Correct.
disagrees.
Correct. I mean, and my feeling is, I just don't know where, it seems as though, for example, my esteemed brother here, who said very appropriately that isn't zoning all about just, what did you say, getting along?
Harmony.
I'm just kidding, about harmony. Yes, that may be the 30,000 foot view. My opinion is that it's not our job to determine harmony. That's not a question. We're not looking at the harmony of the neighborhood. I mean, I'm looking at case law that talks about every component being met except the, like, 98 feet out of 100 feet of frontage, and the court decides that that was a violation to grant the variance, right? So it seems to me that we're taking the job of the applicant. The applicant has to prove these.
I agree.
Instead, what's happening is that we're trying to come up with how these are met. I think that the burden should, my opinion is, the burden should be on the applicant. So I had one thing here under the Mass General Laws 3 requirements for a variance. Odd, unusual, or unique shape does not include deficiencies in the depth, width, especially frontage to justify the granting of a variance. Thus, a regular rectangular lot, which is undersized in area, front yard, side yard, rear, does not have circumstances relating to shape so as to qualify for a variance. So it's not like a pork chop lot or something that's
Right,
too
and
narrow.
that was one of the points I was making.
Oh,
that
absolutely, I
other
agree.
lots in the area are similarly
No, I
sized
agree.
or have similar square footage, so it's not unique. And when you read through Mass General Law, specific to that, it does say, it does bring up the unique. It's not in the summary of the
Correct.
items here, but it is in the law.
I agree. So I'm with you, but I don't know, it's not a lot of time that we have to kind of discuss, except that it seems that we all advocate, or I think that the board members advocate very wonderfully sometimes for some of these applicants. For example, tonight where they have beautiful plans, obviously quality work. I mean, and then we seem to be leaning on the fact that this would be nice for the town. I don't, where am I missing something?
No, you're not. But so, I'll tell you, in my time on the board, so there are certainly towns that never approve variances.
Yeah.
And there are towns that are a little more liberal in their approval of variances. I would say that we as a town, at least in my time on the board, have been a little more liberal in approval of variances.
Yeah.
No, the way we look at it is because if you look at the way the town is laid out, and probably very true of many towns in the area, but historic districts, pre-existing zoning, and you sort of look at the character in the neighborhood, and we may look and say, well, it doesn't meet the zoning, the variance criteria, but what they're doing is certainly in character of the neighborhood. It's not something that is sticking out. You have other lots that are what they're asking to do. There are other examples of it on the same street. It's not out of character. And I think part of what zoning is trying to do is have some sort of uniformity in how the town is laid out, how lots are laid out, how neighborhoods are laid out.
No question. I mean, I think,
and-
for example, I think we're absolutely right.
So, so what we try and do is, historically, is have a little leeway. But like I said, for me, and again, this is just an individual meeting. That hearing is closed.
Right.
But and I made it on the record when I was doing it. It's I can't get past the 8 inches. I thought the plan was awesome. I thought she does great work. I thought her other stuff, but I can't get over that hurdle. And other members of the board were fine with it, and that's fine. But for me, there was a step too far. That's where the point I was bringing up, where the and again, this is rehashing. This isn't rediscussing. So it isn't opening this back up. I'm just rehashing what I had said. Was the garage wasn't a necessity. It was a nice to have. And so the desire for a plan to have that made it, for me and for Mr. K as well, impossible to get past. The other members didn't think that. That's fine. I mean, that's why we
I'm
have...
just thinking in general about these projects, so not even this one tonight.
Right.
It's like, I just feel that the burden needs to be more on, and sometimes you have applicants who are coming, of course, not represented. And so they're selling their heart and soul,
Right.
really, rather than the legal aspects of it.
Mhm.
I just don't know how to get away from the legal aspects and how we have discussions. Well, I appreciate this moment because we don't usually talk about it. We all come from different, kind of a little bit of a different approaches to how this should be. But for me, I always thought variances were rarely, if ever, granted, and
Correct.
and that we aren't looking to try. So, but we're not looking to get in somebody's way necessarily, but we want that the applicant to do the work to tell us how it is that.
And that's why at the end I was like, you can bring a proposal back and
Yeah,
attempt another
okay.
variance. But we can either be hard and fast to the law with no exceptions, which I don't think, me personally, is necessarily the right way to go. There are some very difficult properties that if we limited it, like, so for example, we've had plenty come up and they say, we'll go to one a couple months ago on Howard Street. Oh, well, it's a financial hardship. I didn't tell you to buy the property, and now you're coming to ask the board to bail you out.
Right.
I don't like that stuff. It aggravates me. But, so they need to be able to make a case and get through each of the standards to do that. But again, it's why we have multiple members of the board, and everyone's allowed to have their own individual beliefs, and that's one of the things that makes the board unique. And I think it's also unique. I mean, we have 4 attorneys on the board and 2 doofuses. How's that? You and me. So
I built birdhouses.
that's right. So so where attorneys are used to really digging through and parsing, and the specific word has intent, the specific punctuation has intent, and for me also being in real estate and having done development, and working with clients in the area, like I'm trying to find a happy medium where the board is approachable, the town is approachable, especially for anybody trying. We've approved a number of variances in my time on the board, and sometimes it's a matter of, all right, doesn't meet all the criteria, but it's still a very solid plan. And you're kind of screwed by the lot, and we're not trying to screw people, but don't ask us to make to stand on the edge of the Grand Canyon and jump to the other side. I mean, that's.
I appreciate though that I must have misunderstood before, because I felt that it's got to be clear that all 3 of these had to be met, and
Yes.
I just felt that to me is it's a basic first step. So I thank you for clarifying that, and appreciate you taking the extra time.
Sure.
I think one of the problems that I see is probably a big percentage of the houses were built prior to any adoption of zoning.
Well, in certain areas
In
of
certain
town.
areas, and the zoning has changed in other areas that
Yep.
makes for these complications. I know I grew up in a house that was, 1860s. It was originally 20 feet from the road, but they kept widening the road.
Mhm.
I think I don't even know if it was my grandfather or built the garage. It was 2 feet on the neighbor's yard.
Mhm.
It's still there. The house burnt.
Wow.
The ZBA made them, they could rebuild, but it had to follow the same foundation footprint.
Right.
It has now created an ugly monstrosity
Mhm.
that I grew up in.
But you've had adverse possession on the.
And none of it
Garage
meets, any of the setbacks, because it was a corner lot, and
Yeah. Yeah.
all sorts of legal problems with it. But
Right. I mean, that's why we're here. That's why the zoning bylaws change. It's our job to do what we feel is in, following the bylaws as closely as possible. Maybe, we could be absolute 100% sticklers and pretty much never approve anything. I don't think that's our job either.
No.
We're sort of like the buffer between the zoning enforcement officer and an applicant who's trying to get something accomplished without trying to build something so egregious. You know, we're trying to find a happy medium.
As a procedural, I'm just wondering if we could have discussions like this on a regular, you know, after the meeting, because the property you mentioned on Howard Street, you know, I was wondering about that. Okay, what happens when he moves the house and it falls apart?
Well,
I-
he's,
What do we do then?
I mean, we don't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's beyond the purview. You know,
Yeah.
remember, our job is to listen. You know, an applicant, if they're coming to us, they've either been directed by the zoning enforcement officer or an attorney has let them know in advance, like, hey, you're going to have some challenges. You're going to need, there's a process in every town. Easton, this is their process. You're going to need a special permit or a variance. You know, for me, like, I have to keep my mouth shut. Because I've been full-time real estate for 16 years. It's very hard for me when I see people purchase property and then come afterwards trying to get a special permit or a variance and it wasn't discussed in advance and they didn't make it subject to in their offer of getting a variance in order to be able to close. That's very hard for me, and I don't want to make people feel bad or feel dumb or feel like a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. And unfortunately, our job is not to dig people out of problems they created for themselves, within reason.
Within reason.
Within reason.
Now, what would happen with this house on Pond Street if she put a two-story?
I don't want to speculate and stuff
No,
because
I'm
I don't
just-
want to
I'm
get
just-
us.
No, I'm just. this is
Yeah,
what
I don't want to. I
as a
just don't want to
lawyer-
get us in trouble with open meeting, you know, violations and stuff like that.
We're still on the record, though, right?
We are because we haven't closed,
Right.
so all this is still going.
Yeah.
But what I don't want to do is open up and litigate. You know, if they'd have done this instead of this, that can be stuff that's, you know, off record, personal. You know, asking questions, you know, out in the parking lot or something like that. I mean, at this point,
Ryan, I completely agree with you when it comes to that. We can't start getting into other applications, other
No.
votes.
So that's just a slippery slope. Okay, I think we've exhausted this topic. So I guess what we'll do is we will entertain a motion to close.
I will
today's-
make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Very good.
A second.
Ms. Rummel seconds. All those in favor? Thank you, everyone. I do appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just found out litigation.